to call to order the Wednesday, March 21st, 2018 meeting of the Lake Havasu City Airport Advisory Board. Welcome to everyone. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Lichtel, would you conduct a roll call, please?
Shannon Stebbins.
Present.
Here.
Lewis Worthy.
Here.
Dave McNary. Absent. Steve Huff.
Here.
Brian Schultz.
Present.
Jeff Sayer.
Here.
Shannon Hicks. Absent. And Bill Boyer. Absent. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We'll begin the meeting with a call to the public. We have an open call to the public for citizens wishing to address the board on issues within the jurisdiction of the board. Your comments must be limited to 5 minutes or less. If you wish to address an item already on today's agenda, we ask that you wait until it is announced for a public hearing. At the conclusion of the open call to the public, individual members of the board may respond to criticisms made by those who address the board. They may ask staff to review a matter or may ask that a matter be placed on the future agenda. However, board members cannot discuss or take legal action on matters not already on the agenda. Does anyone in the audience like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll continue. Item 5 is approval of February 21st, 2018 meeting minutes. Those minutes are in front of you. Do you have any corrections or additions? I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes as stand.
Thank you. Second?
I second the approval.
A motion to approve. If there's no further discussion, signify approval by saying aye.
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 Unanimously approved. Item 6 is communications announcement and airport supervisor's report. And I'll turn it over to Steve Johnson for that.
All right, this is going to be a bit lengthy, so bear with me here. City manager was given a tour of the airport on March 8th. We visited 2 FBOs. The airport board chair was involved in this as well. We were on site for over 3 hours, which condolences to the city manager because of me telling my stories, but whatever. March 7th, we had a bid opening for the FOD project. 5 contractors offered bids. The recommended award appears to be McCauley, construction of Winslow, Arizona. CID will be presenting this to the City Council for approval at some point in the near future. County tax assessor stopped by for a tour of the airport. That was last week or the week before. Staff has received the ADOT pavement report for this year. And I'll bring this back probably at a future meeting if you all want this. But in essence, 60% of the pavement out there has failed. And again, this is via federal or state standard for airports. And when they say failed, basically what they mean is a pavement condition index under 55. Now, it's my understanding that in other avenues of the world, non-airport, that's not failure, but with airports it is failure. So approximately 40% of the remaining pavement is sort of middle of the range, again with a low PCI. To give an example here, the runway which we had overlaid 4 years ago, at the time supposedly had a PCI of 100, which is the top rating. It's now down to 63. And these pavement condition indexes are logarithmic. So when it starts to go, it goes fast. So I'm guessing within the next report or the one after that, the runway pavement condition will meet failed as well. Shifting gears here, the gate by our restaurant and D2 was recently repaired, like last week. It was put in 2002 or 3. It was done locally. It's way beyond its design life, so we've obtained estimates to replace it, probably move it so that it's less of an issue with larger vehicles going through that area and nailing it. And we're looking into how quickly we can do that. And I apologize, this is going to be, I'm combining the airport events and the supervisor's report at the same time. Events that are going on right now. We have the Banner Tow Gentlemen in town from the 9th to the 27th, which you've all seen the Geico advertisement floating around out there. The Embry-Riddle kids are back this Friday through Sunday to do their little flight training dynamic at the airport. We have a Rusty Pilot seminar put on by AOPA and the 99s. That'll be happening in the airport terminal this Saturday, the 24th. We have a group of 18 Army helicopters coming from New York, heading up to, I believe, the Death Valley area for maneuvers. They'll be coming through town, as far as we know, the 27th, 28th of next week. And then we have the Young Eagles flights for young folks out at the airport on Saturday, the 31st of March, and that'll be at the Desert Skies FBO. Taxiway Alpha is being crack sealed. Any of you that have been flying lately have noticed that. We started on the 14th of this month. The goal is to complete it by next week. Given the size of the cracks and the fact that this is the first crack sealing we've done out there in the existence of the airport, the amount of sealant now has been doubled. We've gotten the okay to get another 8 pallets. This project and the rejuvenation of the connectors to the runway, we guesstimated at about $53,000. It's now up to $71,000. And we hope to have the crack sealing done hopefully the end of next week. The rejuvenation of the connectors, which I just mentioned as a part of that, we're looking at April. Once we have a definitive timeline for that, we'll be getting together with the tenants, because once we start doing some of those connectors will be shut down for 4 days for this stuff to cure and set up. The electrical vault, the concrete vault, part of the electrical vault project, will be delivered Friday. It's going to be placed on the asphalt over by the fire station. Construction should resume in early April. Grant reimbursements have been, forms have been processed by CID and sent in. Sunday, March 25th, this Sunday actually, the taxi lane on the north ramp serving the hangars on the west side of the hangars will be seal coated. We've contacted the tenants there. This will limit access to the hangars for the day. We figure it'll take about 4 to 5 hours maximum for the seal coat to set up to where it won't track on anything. And again, they've been advised of the closure. Finance personnel will be coming out to the airport for a tour in early April. Finance, the city, and operations met regarding the 2018-19 airport budget a week ago. As a result of that, 2 of the maintenance workers who've always worked at the airport are now assigned back to the airport. It appears that the stormwater project, taxiway edge lines on Alpha, the center ramp, taxiway center lines, and some tie-down repaints will be in the project queue for this coming year. Hangar inspections are ongoing. Airport staff is updating the airport grant project CIPs, or we call them ACIPs. We'll be adding in FOD control off of Alpha Taxiway right adjacent to the center hangars. And FOD control basically being taking the dirt out, putting some big rocks in, so when helicopters happen to taxi over there, you all won't feel like you're in Saudi Arabia in a dust storm. We'll also be asking to expand the hold apron on runway 14, double it in size, stretch it a little bit to the north and a little bit to the west. In addition to that, we'll also be asking ADOT on the PAPI replacement project for runway 32 to add in new reels, runway end identifier lights for both ends of the runway, since we found that the electronics in one of them is rather antique and parts are hard to get. So it's just, and again, it's 26 years, so they've met their design life and then some. And the premise there being to get that to somebody else to pay for it. So the two big construction and design projects, we're looking at 2019, 2020, unless the FAA offers us money, and whenever they do that, we're going to jump and go for it, at least from my standpoint. The D2 hangar construction's underway. The old pavement out there has been removed, and they're doing grading as we speak. The next few weeks, I'll have an airport consultant that we don't have on hire that wants to tour the airport and look at our drainage improvements on the east side, because they're doing a similar project up at Bullhead. Excuse me, talking too much. FAA has advised that given the goofiness of the grant process, it's going to be divided into two parts. And again, the goofiness isn't their issue, it's the budget issue from Washington, D.C. and the federal government. So the master plan is going to be offered in two pieces. They're not going to give us a grant offer until the second piece, which means July or August. The other aspect that's a recent change is typically when they offer us a grant, it has to go through a congressional process where our local congressmen advise us prior to giving the FAA actually giving the grant. That process used to take about a couple weeks. It's now gone to 30 days. So based on these two things going on, and again, a phone call today, I'm expecting an email from the FAA that's going to basically say, finish up the consultant agreement, take it to your council, get it approved. So when they offer us the grant, at best, we'll probably have 2 weeks to turn it around. We've already gone to the council, if I recall correctly, and gotten the okay to accept the grant, but a piece of that is also having the consultant agreement approved by the city council, which has not happened to this point. Today I had a visit from TSA in the afternoon, and no, we are not going to have TSA agents back at the airport, but they gave a little revised booklet about common sense and suspicious stuff at airports and stuff like that for GA. Haven't read through it, so I don't know how common sense it really is, but we'll see. We've been having issues the last month or two with truck deliveries coming through the D2 Hangar 24 gate and racing through there when there are airplanes parked on the ramp. Luckily, we've had no issues with a truck and an airplane getting together, but it certainly freaks out pilots who are out there, and it's not particularly safe. So what we are going to be doing is putting up temporary barricades down on Wayland Drive that say no truck deliveries, actually a sign with a truck on it and a little circle and all that, for that road. And then the intent is that we'll put something else out by the air freight gate, and truck deliveries can happen there, which I think will be far safer than currently what's going on. And that's just an indicator of the growth of the airport and how busy we've gotten, which is all a good thing. It's just minor stuff. And then staff continues to gather information regarding the hangar renter fees that you all have shown an interest in. And so that's an ongoing project. Any questions?
Chairman, anyone? Reference the FOD project, the electrical vault, and the master plan. Is our engineering department communicating with you on a routine basis of where you're at on these projects?
No. Basically, what I've done is I just go straight to the source, either the consultant or the FAA or ADOT. But no, there's not a whole lot of cross communication going on.
And how can we fix that?
I suppose that I can,
Actually, that's an unfair question because that's getting into how the city works. I would just say that from my viewpoint, there needs to be a much more formal communication going on between you and the engineering department, from the resident expert at the airport to engineering, so that we can keep these projects moving along seamlessly. And reference your comments on the budget. Where do we stand year over year on the budget from last year, if you take the grant money out?
don't have that memorized yet. What I can do at our next meeting is bring that back, comparison in not line item by line item, but topic areas between this year's budget and next year's budget, if that would be helpful.
Since that's one of the basic tenets of the airport board is to provide input on the budget to the council, we probably should be briefed on that. And I think if we start off from the topics, and if there's an issue, we can talk about line items beyond that. I think that's all I have. Anyone else? And are you going to present a PowerPoint as well?
Yes. All right, let's see if I can do this and not mess it up. I believe on all of your screens and on this big screen there, you've got this. This is, as you can see, version 17 of something that we've been doing the last few years. Now let's see if I can do this. There we go. Let's see if I can not screw this up. Okay, so what the airport provides the community, as you can see there, a whole lot of economic benefits, job creation, business creation, tax revenues, transportation benefits, productivity of businesses that are here, economic spin-offs, quality of life on a whole litany of different things. And on the quality of life, I'll mention that there are any number of surgeons that utilize the airport, and not just Lake Havasu, but Page, Prescott, quite a number of communities here in Arizona. And if they didn't have access to the airport, the ability to fly in, go downtown, do a number of procedures, and come back to the airport, they would not do business here. So it's, I don't have specific numbers, but it's definitely a quality of life, and I think it's probably an economic positive for us too. And then, of course, the airport is a business attractant. The way I look at it is it's a piece of the economic development weapons or tools we have for the community. And again, with a number of businesses, I think Dillard's, a number of our grocery stores, and others who have business flights come in on a monthly basis, without the airport having them here would not be as likely. And again, the airport's a transportation conduit. It's a gateway for the community. It's an economic development tool, a business tool for a number of our local business folks. And as our roadways, it is a positive first impression of the community for those who come here to work and play. Funding sources, the revenues include everything you see listed there: lands, buildings, rental fees, car rental fees, grants, fuel flowage fees, leases, landing fees for the larger aircraft, advertising, tie-down fees, FBO hangar fees. I mean, as you can see, the list goes on and on and on. Funding sources for grants, FAA 91.06%, ADOT 4.47%, and us locally 4.47%. If we do the right kind of accounting, you can actually knock that down with in-kind services. And again, everything that's included in there, which are all the big ticket items at the airport, design and construction, construction management, on any of the big ticket items, the navigation aids, runways, taxiways, markings, a new electrical vault. That alone is around the high $500,000, which again, we're only paying 4.4% of that, And again, the money beyond the local share, that is coming from airline ticket taxes and taxes on aviation fuel. So it's not as if it's coming out of your income taxes or anything of that nature. And the operators, and again, you'll see all the photographs here, and you all get this, but the photographs basically, this is stuff that's happened at our airport. These are not Googled. And yeah, that's a 737-800 charter out of Burbank that had 8 people on board to visit Grandma and Grandpa down by the lake. They didn't buy any fuel, darn it, but nonetheless, we've had operators like that. But yeah, as you can see, some of the different folks, J.C. Penney's, Bashas', Unisources, Dillard's, our banks. We've had a number of U.S. senators and representatives, state and federal representatives. We are an emergency landing field for Luke, and on average, we have, in the past, have had F-16s land about once a year with some sort of issue. They get fixed and off they go. Fire equipment, airborne fire equipment, helicopters typically come through when we have fire season. We've had 5 different helicopter manufacturers here, typically anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks doing hot air certification of their product, their helicopters. Corporate charters, we have 2 charter operators on field that are corporate, by the way, one at Havasu Air Center and one down in the old D2 area. Organ transplants, medical transport, Civil Air Patrol, to mention them as well, search and rescue, Angel Flights, local business people. And as you probably all have noticed out there, a new restaurant since February of 2017, Hangar 24. Any Friday or Saturday night, if you can find a seat, you're doing something special because the place is typically packed. They seem to be doing really good business. And again, more users, the certification testing, and again, the guesstimate is $990,000 over that time frame of 2007 to 2015. They invested in the local community, and that is not just the airport. That's hotels, that's restaurants, that's other services in town. So I look at this stuff from a broader perspective than just the airport. Our open house in 2015, boats and other things being sold, cars, 180 grand over the period of that one Saturday afternoon. The 99's National Air Race, 103,000 when that was going on here back in 2012, and that was over 4 days. The Royal Canadian Air Force, the last 3 years, my conservative guess on the amount of impact that we've had from all of these different things in the time I've been here, 11 years, is roughly $4 million to the local community. And that's just from these uses, by the way. An economic impact study that came out of ADOT. They haven't done one of these now in a while, but in 2011, they figured economic activities at the airport, 13,500,000. Payroll was just over 5 million and 101 jobs. And again, that's back when we were still coming out of a pretty nasty economic burp. So I'm sure it's increased from that. 2013, we got Airport of the Year. Basically, that was based on aviation advocacy, community relations, airport management, special events. You can tell on the special events, of course, given the amount of money there. And innovative, GADS, activities at the airport. The airplanes you see there is the Air Force Academy. They used to team up with Embry-Riddle and compete. I think given their budgets, they've discontinued that the last couple of years anyway. Airlines, we currently don't have any and haven't since 2007. Bullhead attempted with a grant airline service this last year. That just wrapped up. And again, the airline-like activities you see at Bullhead are gambling charters. So these are directly subsidized and connected to the casinos up there. They're not true airline service. And we have budget rental car, budget Avis rental car out at the airport. So airport investment, of course, the slide in the background is Havasu Air Center being built back in 2008. And look to the number for government investment up with the FAA, roughly $25 million since 1998 to present that we've gotten from the feds. And again, that's grants and state grants as well. And in essence, those are ticket taxes, aviation fuel, and aviation registration fees. So it's not as if that's coming out of anybody's income tax. It's not. Over the last 20 years, 3 FBOs, 5 hangar developments, so these are local business people in this community, invested $24 million out there in the airport of their own money. So you total both of those, you come up with roughly $49 million that have been invested in the airport to date. Over the last 11 years, we've competed and obtained 16 reimbursable grants from FAA and ADOT, totaling about $2.8 million. And then you see the list of all the different things that we've managed to get. And again, those are cents on the dollars. So we're leveraging other people's money and trying to keep the facility from being a burden to our local taxpayers. Some of the aviation events and users, and you can see there, Air Force Academy, the 99s, Hangar 24 Airfest. And again, that impact, because I didn't have enough slides and didn't want to bore you all, but the figure we had for last year, that one Saturday, the economic impact was about $220,000. Open houses, the Royal Canadian Air Force use of the facility. We've had Army and Marine rescue training out there. The formation training that's gone on since 2013. And again, then you see some of the different helicopters who have been out, manufacturers out there in the past. And again, we're an emergency field for Luke. And as you probably all noticed in the last, I'd say 4 years, the military use at the airport has really increased. And again, that's a positive for all of us. General facts on the airport, 646 acres of property. We're guesstimating about 45,000 operations a year, takeoffs, landings, and approaches. 2 FBOs, fixed base operators. And then fuel sold by these FBOs, which we get a cut of, was 538,000 gallons back in 2015. Here in a few months, we should have a better feel for this last year. Air freight, again, this is back in 2008, so it's dated. 4 million pounds of air freight at that point in time, with all sorts of different things being transported. And of course, this last holiday season, Christmas, New Year's, we were typically having 4 flights a day of air freighters coming and going, which is really quite remarkable. There was one instance, I think, where we had 5 flights. And again, that's UPS and FedEx. We have an on-site fire station at the north end of the north end of the city. And the operations department, of course, Mark Clark, you've seen here, is my boss, and then 3 people under me, Rondi, Paul Blazer, and Daryl Baker. Flight training, if you happen to listen to the radio frequencies at the airport, you'll hear many different folks from many different places. This gives a list of some of the different flight schools. Chinese pilots, Lufthansa pilots, and again from Arizona, from Riverside, California, all over the place. 2 charter operators, 2 repair businesses, one that's focused primarily on corporate airplanes, and another that does, for the most part, general aviation airplanes. The infrastructure that we have out there, which is kind of mind-boggling, you can see the list there. And again, it's not that we have 38 miles of 24 wide foot road out there, but when you take all the pavement we have and figure what it would be, think of 95 from here to Parker, and that's what we maintain pavement-wise. And then you get into all sorts of other areas, lights, transformers. There's a lot of stuff out there. It's sort of a mini city within the city. Volunteer groups have a bunch of outstanding groups. You see the 99s there and the Compass Rose a few years back, and the Experimental Aircraft Association and AOPA, and CAP as well, though I don't have them listed here, Civil Air Patrol. Traffic patterns for the airport. As you can see, the airport has an influence way beyond just the fence, with aircraft coming and going around the airport. And for the most part, our pilots are pretty considerate of the residences, both within the city and the communities that surround the city. Future plans, we're going to be doing a master plan. This has to do with the one we did in 2010. We had 50 construction projects identified. As you can tell tonight, I keep adding to that. The majority were grant eligible. And again, that was $49 million over 20 years at that point. When we go through the process again, that number will bump up. I anticipate that we will continue to go back to the FAA and ask for the ability to take 17 acres of airport property and use it, be given the option to use it for a non-aeronautical use up against Highway 95. And again, it's an either or generation. The way I look at this is mainstream jobs, tax revenue for the city. And again, even though it would be on airport land, should the FAA allow this, those tax funds could go directly to the city. They would not go to the airport, which would not be a bad thing. And one of those sites, we've talked about hotels down through the years and down through the ages. And again, that could be even TOT if that was the route that we would take. And again, it's all about economics. I mean, our past was tied to the old airport. I think our future is tied to this airport. It is sort of a roadway in the sky. And it's a gateway just like Highway 95 is. And again, all of us city workers, but the airport as well. The people who are on the airport, whether they be tenants, whether they be workers, we're all ambassadors to the community, and that's a large part why people want to be here. When the Canadians were here, we were going through a concern that had been raised by one or two people, and it was interesting because the commander basically said, "No, Havasu is our home away from home." And of course, somebody else said, "Yeah, no, when I retire, I think we want to move here." And again, that's because we've been extremely hospitable and shown them a good time. And in the long term, that's part of our growth. It's what we do. We're about tourism. And that's it. Any questions?
Any questions? This is a public hearing on the overview of the airport. We have any members of the audience that would like to make a comment? Seeing none, I just have one. We are the designated emergency landing for Luke, which has F-16s and F-35s. Can we pursue additional training for the firefighters at the airport for those types of aircraft?
That's a good question. I can make a phone call and find out. It seems to me it wouldn't be a bad thing. And actually, if the folks at Luke were up for it and a field trip, I think that would be an excellent thing. I'll look into that.
Any other comments? Okay, the next item is a public hearing as well. It's update and discussion regarding the north ramp bathroom. And this is on the agenda just to keep the public informed, we talked about and we passed a resolution last month to put a portable restroom facility on the north ramp. And we have some budget concerns, so we want to let you know that we're working on it. And I'll turn it over to Steve to talk about where he's at on that.
What we've, and a little of this I think you've already heard, but what we found is in building an actual structure, it gets us into some pretty significant numbers, either into the 100,000s or into tens of thousands anyway. And given budget concerns this coming year, figured this might not be the time to do it. And the other aspect being that doing an RFP for hangars up at that part of the airport on the north ramp, it might be something that could be folded into somebody putting in hangars. And they, I'm sure, could do it at a far more cost-effective number than we could. So that being said, what we determined was the possibility of putting in a porta potty, and then the dynamic of what it would cost. Now, to rent one, and this wouldn't be ADA compliant, but to rent one up there, make some modifications to where when you have windstorms, it doesn't tootle on down the hill. We were figuring anywhere from $700 to $800. We are also looking into what it would cost to buy one and then have it serviced. And those numbers I don't have yet. But those are the two options we're currently looking at.
Interesting point here that $840 doesn't seem like a huge impact on the budget, but our budget runs at the airport close enough that we don't have $840 sitting around right at the moment that we can go expend in discretionary funds to put this bathroom on site. Is that true?
That's, given the way things appear to be going with the gate and the additional cost on the crack ceiling, I would say that, yeah, we're going to be, by the end of the year, we will have spent most of our money, yes.
So as we go down the road for hangar rents, knowing that we're the most expensive place in northwestern Arizona, we have to weigh that with the fact that we don't have a lot of cash to do something simple like put a bathroom on the north ramp. But we are working on it. Once again, this is a public hearing, so let me open it up for any comments from people in the audience. Seeing any comments from any other members of the board? That completes our agenda for tonight. Item 8 is future agenda items. Any board members have comments on items you'd like to see on the future agenda? Mr. Sayer.
I'd like to put the airport pre-accident plan that Steve and I are going to be meeting on. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of a draft that I can send out before the meeting. You guys can look at it. Okay?
Great. Anyone else? Steve, can we have a public hearing on the airport pavement condition report for next month so that we can get a little farther into what it's going to cost and what we need to do to make the pavement last until we can get federal funding?
Yeah, I can, I will get you numbers from our CIP, and again, these are estimates sort of ahead of the game. I'll bring the report, and then probably mention some of the new FAA grant requirements where we prove to the FAA each year that we're spending money out there, and by doing that, they continue to offer us grants. So I can bring all that back, yes.
I have one more comment, and that is concerning the upcoming event on the 31st, which is Young Eagles Flying. So if there are any parents or grandparents watching this on television, we're providing free flights for kids between the ages of 8 and 17. We have about 35 to 40 seats available still that we are going to fly from 9 to noon. If you will text me or call me or get a hold of me or anyone at the airport, we will fix you up with a reservation for your child. Our future meeting, the next meeting is Wednesday, April 18th, 2018. With no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Without objection, we are adjourned.